Good morning, conlangers. How are people doing? Let's see who we've got here for the new schedule, huh? Uh, First things first, we have our poll from last week. So what we had is um, so we had several different options for you all to choose from. Yeah. Hi, Tabby. Afternoon where you are, huh? Just having my morning tea so that I'm awake. So we had option A was vowels just devoice after an aspirated consonant, right? Buenos dias, Baba. B was it has to be before a consonant, and actually I adjusted that to within the syllable, so it has to have a coda, right? Here we had it had to have a stop coda, and here the choice was if the stop is not voiced, right? Hello, Bluam? Bluam? Is that how I can pronounce that? I know that the dotless I know what the dotless I is in Turkish, but I don't know if you are using it that way. So it seems like patrons decided that this was the best thing. I can make a case for any one of these, but this one, the way that this can make sense is like the devoicing doesn't necessarily um, uh, penetrate very far, and it can go through a short vowel but not a long vowel, and the having the consonant coda helps that by shortening the vowel even more, right? So it works. Yeah. Someone stole the Blium with a dotted I. Okay. I that is interesting that was yeah. Liam with a B in front. Okay. So I guess your first name starts with a B. Anyway, that's what we ended up with. And this morning, I had a slight crisis because I didn't know where my old file was saved. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to retype my entire Lexigy file because it only had like the vowel changes. And then I remembered when you hit save on Lexigy, it actually saves things to your downloads folder as like a generic thing, and then you have to move it and rename it if you want to organize it. So I saved myself there, but I have implemented this. I'm calling it the nuclear devoicing rule. That's just for now. And I have also now this is a trick that you can always do. So I ended up, I thought, I want some cases, I want when there's this aspiration, I want the E to devoice and the syllabic consonant to be sh instead of zh, right? So what I did was I went and I defined these two, and I defined this one as glottal width. Now, you may be looking at that and saying, like, George, is the difference between those two not voicing? And to that I say, features are just a useful tool. And if you can make it make sense to you, you can use whatever features you want to represent something as long as it works. And it just so happens that voiceless fricatives, when you phonetically, generally are spread glottis. It's just sort of like you generally will open up your glottis for a voiceless fricative in order to enhance the contrast anyway. And so it's not that weird. In fact, there are analyses of English that say that we don't have a voicing distinction in stops and also don't have a voicing distinction in fricatives. The fricatives are distinguished on glottal width. And, doing phonetics work, I have seen speakers pronounce a V sound, right? Or something like that with no voicing bar. So that makes sense from a phonetic perspective. Just another way that, like, the features that you learn in school are not necessarily... and I'm going to make this... I forgot what I think I wanted to make this glottal width and constricted. But that's going to be... But that's sort of going to be a... there's going to be a... And I'm going to make sure I always save these and then remember to get the last one and put it in my regular place. Oh, the good old days in conlang. I mean, if you've taken formal linguistics classes, they usually start with like the sound pattern of English feature set, and that's really out of date. Actually, it's useful to learn that to get a base level understanding. But yeah. Well, Logan, this is a time that works for me, and it's a time where I can get a full 2 hours in. So it's a perfect time for me to stream. Plus, we've got a lot of viewers that are in Europe who it's like 1 or 2 p.m. So it's not a huge thing to have them show up at that time on a Saturday. If you want to do, anyone out there who wants to do a conlang stream, I will give you this advice. Yes, Logan, I will give you this advice. You pick your schedule to be sustainable for you, because, there's people all over the world who could watch live, and there's people who will watch after the fact. But the most important thing is that is that when you need to be consistent, and it was getting to a point where it was going to be difficult for me to be consistent at the 3:30 time, so I moved it so that I can always be here on a Saturday at 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And that's something that I can commit to. Anyway, let's move on. I just give that for anybody who wants to do. I think it would be great if Logan did a stream, if he could find time, because Logan is completely a different category of conlanger than any of the 3 streams right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't know a lot of technical stuff about English. Yeah, that's a thing about linguistics, is you end up specializing in a language or a language family, and you don't necessarily learn. I learned a lot about English and a lot about Chinese, and then a little bits about, well, I learned about Spanish because I speak Spanish, but little bits about, factoids about Japanese and Turkish and, all those standards and examples of certain features, right? Anyway, let's move into here. So I have implemented this devoicing rule, but this is not, I think maybe I want to do it differently. So, what can I call this? Because I want this also to affect, I want this also to affect glides and approximates. So if I can, and consonant, at this point, the best way to capture what a glide is probably not aperture. That's going to change because we're going to have to get fricatives involved at some point. But okay, so we got pinchi, pinchi, punchi, punchi. There we go. And if we have one that's not aspirated here, we don't get that. Pungi, pungi, pun. Well, that was not. We can also test this. Oh, not that. Right? Punki, 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 punki. Okay. So, that's when we get into lexicon Topher, we're going to have to deal with the diversity of fey creatures, definitely, because yeah, some of them can fly, some of them are tiny, some of them are like the size of regular humans. The actual SRD is not super helpful because it has sort of an odd collection. There's satyrs. There are some of the hags. The night hag is classified as undead, but the green hag and the sea hag are classified as fey. It has the blink dog, which I don't know why they decided blink dog is a fey. Oh, glide. Okay, you're talking about glides. I sometimes jokes just pass over my head. Yeah. And also, you know, in like the SRD stuff, we established that all elves have fey ancestry, and that grants them the ability to resist charm, and also makes it so they don't sleep, right? Yeah. Yeah, Celtic creatures equals fey. It's more than just Celtic creatures though, because like satyrs, yes, jokes glide over my head. Satyrs are borrowed from Greek. Satyrs or fauns, whichever term you use, are borrowed from like Greco-Roman mythology and put into that same category. It's really, there's a lot of contributing cultures because of the history of Britain and Ireland. Hello, Tony, sandwich artist Tony. We're conlanging right now. So I have. So we've got this devoicing rule, and I think I'm happy with that. And I have done my stress reduction. I decided to move that above the devoicing. It shouldn't interfere, but I just wanted to make sure that we had this reduction to schwa happen before this, just in case we had some weird edge case where we wouldn't end up with a devoiced schwa when we should. non-Norse pagan creatures that, I mean, elves are from Anglo-Saxon and influenced by Norse mythology. It's just fantastical creatures of Britain. Most of them are fae. In the past, they've even been conflated with demons. So it's really wild. Um, so so now we want to do this. Um, now, so we haven't worked out our S aspiration rules yet. Okay. Um, but we haven't implemented them. A key thing that we need to decide is we need to decide whether this happens before or after the devoicing. So, and let's say, let me highlight this. Right. Right. Oh, and we have that. We've done our vowel reduction. So this S aspiration rule, if we were to have it happen after the devoicing rule, then we would get this H sound and it would not affect the devoicing. But I think it's actually more fun if it does happen before devoicing. And a specific thing I want to think about is I want also there to be a change where we have this goes to this. And we can do it one of two ways. So let's see. Let's talk about our options for ordering of S aspiration, glottal aspiration, and vowel devoicing. So here is my thought on this. We can have the S aspiration there is going to be a Grimm's Law thing going to happen. And then vowel devoicing. And then H aspiration. Or glottal stop aspiration. Right? And what that will get us is we will have some H will be lost but some initial H will survive. So, we're going to have that. We can have that. Another option would be to have S aspiration come, and it doesn't matter which order they come in. The glottal aspiration comes before vowel devoicing. And then we would have, so getting at, we would have this H delete. So H, no initial H will survive. That doesn't mean we'll never have initial H, because we could also have, we're going to make a change where all of these aspirates become fricatives. That's the Grimm's Law thing. Sort of Grimm's Law, not exactly, that I want to happen. And we're going to have some lenition rules that can turn the plain and voice stops into fricatives, and sometimes that will happen initially, right? But and so once this happens, like we could have rules that have either the k or the ka, they become ha and ha, and one of them could become h, right? And we could still have initial h's happen. But we decide whether like any of the glottal h's occur. This also will have the effect of, so this one will have the effect of solidifies phonemic voiceless vowels. We'll probably still have voiceless vowels that be phonemic because we're losing this, and I probably want to have, we're going to lose this aspiration. I want that to happen before it gets turned into a fricative, right? But we can have more phonemic voiceless vowels if we do this, and like specifically solidify that you can have a voiced vowel after an H, and voiceless vowels. There's going to be also interesting distribution facts. Only voiced vowels occur after initial H, which that doesn't actually, that won't follow from here, right? Because the initial H will be gone anyway, right? And this is going to be at a particular stage in the language, right? So I don't want to do this as a patron one. I want to get this decided. Would you rather have option A, and I really should stay on top of which keyboard I'm using, or option B? This one, we can still have phonemic voiceless vowels. We can still have the interesting distribution facts, but it might actually mainly happen in certain circumstances. Like, same distribution facts might be specific to dialects. So this one we would do this, and we would do this in stage 1. And we would end up in stage 1 with middle Fey having this contrast, right? Here we probably would save the changes that would make this distribution happen for the different dialects. So, yeah. Hi, Miles. what time is it for you? It's like 9:30? Okay, so what's the order of S aspiration, vowel devoicing, and glottal aspiration? We're just going to do this right quick. Don't worry. Before 10, we will come up with a like structural patron poll too. Okay. Okay. Does this? Let's see. I just need to make sure it fits YouTube's requirements. Okay. Straight up and down. Let's see. It's 9:30 a.m. Okay. That's right. So East Coast is an hour ahead of me. I should know that, seeing as my, so much of my family lives in West Virginia. But that's oh, this is interesting. This is a fight, huh? We're getting a little bit of a fight here. I'll let that run for a little bit while I talk about. So another thing I was thinking about, since I have all week to think about this, is I may consider whether I want the S aspiration and the glottal aspiration to occur across word boundaries to become another kind of initial mutation. So initially I was just going to do this for initial mutation, right? We have our lenition, and this occurs between two vowels or between two sonorants. Well, we can sort that out. Maybe Miles, I am very curious about how you abandoned your sister going to Wheeling, but that's probably a story you should tell on your own stream. So, like, here's some words. Okay, let's say I have a word. Let's say I have a word. Sange, and a word. That's ange, starting with a glottal stop, right? Ange, ange, whatever. This is just dummy words, right? If we do a, then this would become, it would become hange, and then it would become and where's the voiceless one? I don't think that's right, but that's the closest I get in this. Ange, hange, hange, hange. And this one just goes to hange and stays there. However, if we do this one, both of them will eventually become hange. Right? So that is so does that help you, Tony? Okay. It looks like we are pretty clear on a winner. And there's going to be like fun to be had with all of this, no matter what you do. This sort of preserves more of the structure too, whereas this one does not. But we will see. Okay. All right. I think Bubba, you picked the right one, huh? Okay, I think I can end the poll now. And you guys chose this one, which is possibly the more interesting one anyway. So, we're going to have this happen. Now, in order to make Lexergy do this right, I'm going to have to make sure that we put everything in the right order and we get this. So, where do we have, so we have this devoicing rule. Before that happens, S aspiration happens. And there's actually some complications to S aspiration. So let's make sure that we get all of the like kinks of S aspiration worked out, right? So we want to so we want S to go to H, TS goes to S. We want S consonant to become the geminate, and then an S with a consonant and aspiration, these become glottalized. Okay, so let's see how I can work that out. I want to so what I need to have the glottalized diacritic defined. Floating. And this will be, I'm going to say this is glottal width and constricted together. Let's see if that works out. And oh, I need to actually make it the correct thing. I don't want it just to be I need it to be superscript. And so this means that what we have is we've got our S aspiration happens here, and this is so S becomes H. And do we have H defined? We do not have H defined, so we better go symbol H, and H is just glottal width. It's just spread glottis is what it is. Okay. And we're going to stop it there for now, and we're going to check and see how this works. Sange. Let's use our example words that we just made. Ange. Doesn't fit the syllable. Okay. H should be S. Oh, okay. So I need to curly bracket this in order to make sure that this stays. Well, wait. It should still. So it does need to be. It does need to be there, but I'm not sure why it's being annoying for me right now. So I think it's just because I didn't put this in the consonants. So I can go ahead and put that here. And apply that. Why do I have... Oh, okay. And, okay, so we need to actually add a thing to this. I think probably first. H and plus syllabic. And we're going to copy this part, except this is going to just be an asterisk in order to delete that H. Oh. Okay, so why is it trying to make something oh, it's trying to, yeah, so not constricted. This is just a little bit of debugging just to make sure that I have everything sorted out. There we go. So that worked. So we got hanga and anga. And then after that, we're going to go glottal aspiration. And this is going to be a straightforward glottal stop. Becomes H, just always. Okay. Now, so we have hanga, hanga, and hanga. That's actually a distinction that we have in like middle phase stage. It may disappear in some of the languages. It may like turn into a different kind of distinction in some of the languages. Now, here's an interesting thing that we can do. So we can have span. Let's go with span, and I think I'm going to restrict this. Apan and apan. Now, if you see where I'm going with this, gemination. Now, it is a really good, cool thing in Lexergy that we can have complex rules because it makes things easier, right? So if we have an H followed by a GW consonant, and let's see if this works the way I want it to, then that becomes so this needs to be 1. Let's see, glottal gemination 1, right? Okay, no, that's right. We want to, what we want to do is we want to have a consonant. Let's do this part first, and then we geminate, right? And if this is okay, let's clear the syllables before this happens. And then we get pan, right? We already actually have a distinction going on, right? Because we have ban and pan, right? Ooh. So this reveals something. My original thought is not going to work because right. So we've discovered something here. Once you do this, I am not. I've made sort of an error in. Okay, no, I can make this matter. Hi, Dodo. Are you up early? There we go. So, oh gosh, I need to. Okay, stress assignment has to. Equals plus stress. You have to, every stress assignment rule needs to have this clause where you have, if there is only one syllable in the word, then that syllable gets stress. Otherwise, you get weird stuff like this, right? That should be ba, ba, pa, ba, 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 ba. Now, we are going to geminate, take our geminates, we're going to take our geminates and we're going to say, okay, if we have consonant and this is index 1 and this is also index 1, both of those will get constricted. And let's see if this actually does what I intend it to do. No, it does not. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to change the way that this works. I'm going to have to, let's kill these. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is, because I don't want it to look like that. That's silly. We're going to kill that. We're going to have them not do that. And I'm just going to have to remember they're not actually glottal width anymore, although they technically should be. That's just how I'll have to write it into the rules. So we have ba and ba, right? Ba and ba. It's a little difficult to hear just plain old glottalized versus if I make it an adjective, pa, pa, right? And then we have appa and appa. Appa, appa, right? So we're going to Bubba. That's so I don't consider like stress timing and syllable timing as a thing that's really typological to the language itself. However, that idea is useful when we go to poetry. And since we have like different syllable weights and stress assigned by syllable weight, then absolutely I will consider this like a stress. I probably will, if all of that sort of survives into the daughters, I will consider that when we're doing poetry, because so stress timing and syllable timing is sort of like an emergent thing. If you have variation in syllable weight and like things like secondary stresses and stress that is attracted to weight, then you're going to skew towards the stress timed. If you have, like Ndakaga had, basically no difference in weight and there was a fixed stress, that's more on the syllable time scale. So if you'll remember, when I decided I wanted to do just some light poetry conventions for Ndakaga, I went with syllable count. Lines are typically 8 syllables, right? Here, we probably want to do something like metrical feet in poetry. Just like English tends to, English poetry tends to work really well in iambic pentameter or iambic feet in general. This language will need to decide on are we going to do iambic or trochaic feet? Like how many feet do we put in a line? And then beyond that, we'll decide on stuff like rhyme and such, right? So that's definitely a thought that we can work with, but it's not something I'm super worried about right now. It's more when we get to the end product and I'm getting to where I want to write spells and I want some poetry convention for the longer incantations of spells that have like a 10-minute cast time, or even some of the 1-minute cast times. All right, so this is working the way we want it to. So we have implemented our devoicing rules, which all sort of work out. We've got a distinction between a voiceless vowel initial and an H initial. So we have that. We have the Hanga. Hanga. A long time ago, Tony, it's not on the YouTube channel, but if you go to conlangery.com and go to the archives, you will find an audio episode about poetry. So just go to conlangery.com, search for poetry, and you should find an older episode of me and William talking about poetry conventions. I may at some point in the future do a video, but we'll see about that. So we've got this worked out. Now we need to think about what else we want to do with this. Do we want to continue making sound changes? We've got 123 lines of code here. We've got like some pretty complex vowel changes. This is our syllable structure. We've got some more vowel changes. We've got stress reduction, the S aspiration. Okay, before we do the S aspiration, we need to TS to S, S. So what happened is we have the affricate, and when the S became an H, that puts pressure to come up with a new S. So we have TS deaffrication. And this is so tange. Okay, I need a colon. Programming Lexergy with George. So tange becomes sanga. So we actually end up keeping this three-way distinction. Tange, sanga, sange, and ange become sanga, hanga, hanga, and hanga. And then I think we'll leave this alone for dialects. We can do some cool stuff with deleting the H and stuff within certain dialects. Poetry with emojis. Okay. How would you do poetry with emojis? So, we've implemented all of that. Now, we need to go. We're going to do, after that, we have two more changes that we haven't sorted out. So, we're going to say, okay, we have Grimm's Law. Not actually Grimm's Law, because Grimm's Law is more complicated than this. But we're just going to have all of the remaining. We're going to have this happen first, right? We're going to have this happen. And it's actually good that I got rid of this glottal width thing, because it actually helps with what I need to do next. Because these will be preserved when I change all of the other aspirates. So let's go pa, ba, ba, and pa. You guys didn't think I was gonna leave you with a a water genasi tiefling. Oh gosh. You'll need to get one of the supplements that allows you to do those arbitrary half races. I know there's one called an elf and an orc had a baby that's supposed to be good. It's something we can check, you can check out. And so we're going to have to define what are, okay, this is, I randomly did a draconic thing. By the way, I'm still doing, like, every single day I am working on spell incantations in Ndakaga. That work is still ongoing until I get that finished. Which is slow because I have a full-time job and everything. But let's see now. So I just have this go to this, right? Now, we need to actually decide how that works. So let's grab our consonant chart, pull it down here in order to see like what has been added, okay? So all of these are going away. We'll make them red. We're going to insert a row above. Now, this is going away. This just ends up with a shifting, right? This ends up, we'll do purple like this. We still have an S, but it's a different S than we had. And for the additional H phoneme, we're going to do, go with blue and have an H. Nope, that's not a G, an H. Slightly different blue than that. That's a little better. Okay. And then, okay, so we're going to start, we have these fricatives. So, fa and sh, that's pretty straightforward, right? Sh, like that, okay? And then h and ha. Now that's definitely going to merge at some point. And it's probably going to merge early on because that's not common. Now, what do we do with ta? Now, the thing is, we could have it go to sa. However, we already have sa occupied. But we could have it go to tha. I know everybody wants tha in their Elvish language. So I will put it in the proto-language. However, not all of the languages. So this is a sibilant fricative. This is an affricate. Yes, we've got a tha. We're probably going to have a the as well, but the dental fricatives, not all of the dialects will have them. So probably in the night one, it will remain because that will be the most conservative dialect. And maybe in the final Koine, it sort of survives by an agreement that this is something we use. All right. This should be liquid and glide. Right. So I need to define all of these in a way that it will be easy for me to insert them. Another thing, we're going to have our lenition rule happen, which will produce we're going to have the and then the, je, and the. This is probably going to be like, for now, I'm going to make these like green, and we're going to say these may still be allophonic in the middle fay. We'll see. But we need to do this. But first we need to define these. And since we're going to have to define these and these, we're going to do our same trick that we had before. And we're going to so let's get all of these. Let's get all of these. I just need to grab this, right? And then we have F, th, sh, ch, ha. Okay. These are not aperture. And I have to be careful here because we have some weird situations that can arise here. Right. Okay. So, and these, we're going to use our trick that we did before and call these just glottal width. Now, I need to be careful because as it stands now, if we have this defined this way, then we're going to have this is, okay, this is not going to be an issue. This one, okay. Okay. But I'm going to add a plus sonorant to all of these in order to make sure that they stay the way that they need to be. Okay? And then we're going to see, so let's say aspirate spiritization. No, fricativization. Frication. Just aspirate frication. There are so many ways to... So a consonant that is both aperture and glottal width becomes not aperture, wherever it is. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, we still have an S, and like some of the dialects may merge it with S, right? So, pa becomes fa. Yay! We accomplished something. Now, to sort this out, let's go ahead and have some apa, apa, apa. And then we will have the, what is it? Intervocalic spirification. And we're going to have a consonant, any consonant. So a consonant that is, so a consonant that is not GW becomes, like, it should be aperture and not GW becomes, it becomes plus GW and not aperture in the environment between two vowels. Okay? Now, this is how I have it currently, but we can consider whether we want to do it between vowels or we want to do it all sonorants. Yeah. Quite well, I don't know. So we don't have things about like a certain time for sweets though. And then we have a consonant. So this happens. The other thing that happens is a consonant that is, so this is not GT. It should be non-GT. One that is GT. So GT is our, so this means that this needs to lose the GT feature. And we're not adding that. And that also means that I have to come here and define my voiced fricatives as this. So we have f, so v, the, well, it would be helpful if I had the right thing. The, ja, the, and we don't need this one. This one, well, there is no voice variant because there's no voice variant of ka, right? Ka. So when we take the GW off of this, and then I'm going to, okay, and then we'll apply that. Okay, I forgot a colon. And let's scroll down. So this is correct behavior. This will become alpha, and this one will also become alpha. This one becomes ava. Ava. Okay. Fairy rituals or ceremonies. That level of world building is probably outside of the scope of this project. I am going to do some world building on the basic structure of fairy because I'm doing multiple dialects and then coinization, so I kind of need that level. However, the goal for the tongues and runes languages has always been for DMs to be able to, and players to be able to take the incantations I write and just use them in their own games. And I have realized that I can't do like absolutely no world building. That just is not going to work to create a full conlang. But I am mindful of setting certain boundaries for myself so that I am not pigeonholing people too much into making the world the way I want it to be, right? So for okay. Oh, I love those dabaitu candies. They're really great, Jake. So anyway, like here I have the broad structure of fairy, and I have my own ideas about like who the rulers are and all that, but I'm not going to bake that into the language so much. but I have decided I can do some work on fairy and like broad structure of that. I'm calling it fairy instead of the Feywild. Um, but I am not going to touch the overall structure of the prime material plane because that's where everybody has their maps of everything, and everything needs to be in its place, right? Um, and when I did Draconic, there were some things that are established about uh, the King Joe. There were some things that were established about there were some things that were established about the prime material plane by way of the sensory abilities I gave dragons, but it's not much. It's just the only thing that really is established is that there's a global magnetic field, right? Which that's fine. I mean, lots of worlds can have a global magnetic field, and it's not even, you don't even have to have a clear north and south pole in your world for Ndakaka to fit within it, because they don't distinguish north and south pole. They just say towards the pole or away from the pole, because they can't, like, they're they have magnetoreception, but they can't tell which direction north or south is by magnetoreception. They can only tell that the magnetic field lines are. So they can tell that there's a pole here and there's a pole there, but they have to infer from other context which one would be north and south. Okay, that's enough. I have a lot more room for tangents if I can do a whole 2 hours. So that's nice. But back to fairy, I have like my 4 regions of fairy, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with like solid world building. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, oh, when a dragon gets, well, they can still see the magnetic field lines, right? Towards the pole, away from the pole. Also. Yeah. So the way they do it is they say like towards the pole or away from the pole, but that is like relative to what the closest pole is, because they can tell, they can see. This is based on, by the way birds have magnetoreception, and there have been tests on migratory birds, mainly robins, that it is this way. Like a small disruption in the local magnetic field just makes them crazy. But if you do a reversal of the magnetic field, they still exhibit the same behaviors as if it was regular. So like a reversal doesn't bother them. So the inference there is that they can't really tell, and the mechanism for it sort of implies that they can't really tell, because it's not that they don't have a compass in them. They don't have um, like magnetite that will actually align. They have like a chemical in their eyes that will allow them to detect a an an electron spin transition that can be affected by magnetic field lines. Um, so fairies, that's a thing. Let's moving back to fairies, right? So having, I want them to be more mystical, so I'm not necessarily going to go into the science of it, but at the same time, like fairies again are a very diverse group. Some of them may have magnetoreception. Some of them may be able to see UV, like I've decided dragons can, but not all of them, right? Um, so I think baseline, I'm going to say that they have sort of the same sensory abilities as a human, but there can be fairies out there that, based on them being like a half animal or having some mystical connection with something, might end up having some different senses or something. Yeah. Some would have true sight. I think I need to like actually get the monster manual to look at like a broader range of fae. I think that some of the greater ones have true sight, which all that true sight gives you is that you can see through illusion magic. You can see things that are invisible. You can you can ignore illusions, and basically it's the thing is you see things as they are. But like if you want to see in the dark, you have to also have dark vision, right? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, you can take a look at that. I think a lot of them have charm resistance, and we know that elves don't sleep. And those are things that are established that we might play with, right? Um, yeah, yeah. We can always greater fae. Yeah, there's some fae that are basically gods, and then there's a lot of things that are like, you know, pixies and stuff. God tier, your mileage may vary, huh? When we get to colors, I'm gonna have to decide whether there are some fae that can see UV colors, but I think I want to keep that kind of a unique thing to dragons. Um, so, okay, where were we? Okay, we've just got this rule set up, right? Um, Now, from here, let me make sure that um, this is still working correctly, right? Okay, this is still working correctly. We're not having this become. I can just to be safe. Let's replace this with a W. See what happens. Pshinqua, pshinqua. That's good. Now, this rule will actually apply across word boundaries, which I don't think I have a way to do in Lexergy. But it's something I will keep in mind. I am considering whether some of the other rules, I'm considering whether like the sonnet devoicing will also occur across word boundaries, because that would give us two initial mutations to play with to start, right? Um, in the Celtic languages, there are some that have just one consonant mutation and initial mutation, and some that have more than that. It's like between 1 and 4 different consonant mutations. And I think between my dialects, I will vary that a little bit. Um, right? So, this is something I just need to keep in my notes. Lenition Sunday occurs across word boundaries. And this, and then we have, oh, okay, so we can do that in Lexergy. Do we, so how does that work, Tabby? So, can I do it like this? Will that work? And then, like, if we go, ba, right? Fa. Good. Okay. But it still works. But it still works here. All right. That's good. So we need to. I need to decide whether these ones are going to work across word boundaries, and then we'd have two different ones. Okay. Now, phonology is not actually hard. When you're doing the historical method and doing a lot of changes, it does take time to figure out all your changes. However, we are about to move on. So we have done some protophonology stuff, right? Okay. So let's make this heading 1. And let's see. I want to do one thing different. Yeah. So I'm thinking about, I will come back to, I, let's see. I think I'm going to leave it there for like the middle version. Okay. And then start working on stage 2. We do need to have our labialization happen early, but I think I can happen early in stage 2 to all dialects with the palatalization rule. Let's see. This. So we have this. This happens. And then I think. Can I make that? Maybe that can be the patron poll. We can consider whether we want that to apply across word boundaries and get a second mutation. Actually, I'll think about that. However, I do want to establish the proto-morphology a little bit. The reason I want to do that is if we're doing multiple dialects, we want to figure out what categories, what morphology was gained or lost in each dialect. So it would be helpful to actually establish early on what that was. So let's see. Let's go here. Let's go start with nouns and pronouns. And let's roll some dice. So you will see my table for nominal and pronominal number up on the screen. And you will see my dice. There should be no sensitive materials on my desk today. We're going to roll this, And this is just going to be our initial conditions in the proto-language. We can gain or lose number categories as we wish, right? So let's roll this. 56. So between 32 and 59, we have only a morphological plural on nouns and pronouns. So now we know there we go. Now let's just roll a bunch of noun tables for now. Now we could consider, we don't have any dual marking on nouns. However, it is sometimes possible to get dual marking on pronouns or unit augmented on pronouns without dual marking. We got a 43. That doesn't happen for us. Now, are there core cases? That's a 43. There is no case marking in the proto-language. No core cases. So we're going to be building up a case system, possibly. We will decide. No core cases. Are there going to be any oblique cases? Now, this is a little bit weird. You really generally won't. But we got 74. But there are oblique cases. That's fine. We'll just how is possession marked? So let's go to our possession. 44. 44. So the possessor is marked. Okay. When you have oblique cases, the and you get 44. So the possessor is marked. So there's a genitive case basically. Loss of interest. So there is going to be at least a genitive case, and then we can sort of decide what other cases existed early on. Now, noun classes. I am going to stipulate here, since we didn't actually have any noun classes last time, I'm going to stipulate there are noun classes. They are not sex-based. So we will decide on what categories there are. It could be just animate, inanimate. It could be different things. But I I have decided that we're not going to have any of the sex-based ones. Okay. Now, so, but we can still decide what agrees with noun class. And we're going to so I can see both things at once. So we're not doing sex-based noun classes. So we're going to roll on this table. So class agreeing pronouns. 03, we got no. Okay. Now we get into like verbs and stuff. So pronouns do not agree. Not pronouns. And then we'll decide like I need to go back and spend some time with Grandbank and see if they have features for if they agree with verbs or do they agree with property words, all of that. Okay. So let's sit here. Tony. Okay. Let me make a note of that. I'm just going to make a new heading. Because it's whether it's expressed on any particular thing is going to be up for debate. Now, there are a lot of ways you can do a grammaticalized politeness system. Now, we can, and I don't think I have any way of like any data that will turn this into a table, but we can have lots of pronouns. Basically, Japanese kind of has lots of pronouns. Marked on verb, like Japanese or Korean. Alternate vocabulary. All over. Seasonality, like we could, I think the different courts, what court you belong to is going to affect it. Like you might have different ways of referring to someone who is from a different court, which I'm not doing actually seasonal courts. I'm doing like time of day, dawn, day, dusk, and night. Uh-huh. So, and you see why I did this as a separate thing, because it could be marked on the verb, it could be on pronouns, it could be honorifics on proper nouns, like Japanese, right? The san honorific, right? We can sort of decide. So I'm going to have to think about, we're going to have to think about what noun classes we want. We're going to have to think about what kind of politeness system we want. Okay. What's Kramangoko? I have to look that up. But some kind of politeness, and then also even English does this, right? You will use different constructions with different people. There are some people that it's okay to use a direct imperative with, whereas other people you need to use the conditional form, right? There's some people you can say, "Go take out the trash," and other people where you really should say, "Could you please take out the trash?" Right? Um, and some people you just wouldn't ask that to in the first place. But um, that probably will be a thing, um, just because I think that's like the most common thing to happen. But we can have all sorts of things. Now, we can. I will consider whether we want to do a poll on this specifically. But the thing is, I kind of feel like it should arise more organically, um, with like the grammatical material that we end up it with, right? Um, um, Bubba, I'm. That is a very good question. So, what I want to do, let me type this out so it's a little easier to dialect split. So, um, let's do a heading 1 so that we can. So we're going to have 4 dialects. Day, dawn. We're going to have dawn, day, uh, dusk, and night. Oh, okay. Light and dark nouns, that could be something. Okay, let me put that into our light versus dark. I think that works also with our like day and night thing. Um, I will consider that. Um, there could be a lot of different things too. Um, but apply the wave model. And let me talk to you about the wave model. So let's get Inkscape up so I can draw some things. So the way that you probably have heard about language change is using the tree model. So let's put that tree model. And that is where, so you have your proto-language here. And let's get Bezier curves. So you go, and that, I would like that to have some kind of a stroke so you can see it. And then, so you get that, and then you can get further splits. I don't want to have a fill, right? And sometimes you can have like a split here, right? So this is modeling language change as splitting between, this is like a genealogy, right? You have the parent language, and you have two daughters, and two daughters, and two daughters. Sometimes you have more than two daughters languages if they split at the same time. With the wave model, let's go wave model. Let's get our circles. What you have is some geographic area. And I'm just going to go simplifying with circles. And what you have is you have some change that happens here, and it spreads out. Okay? And then you had another change that happened and spreads out here. And another change that happened here, and it spreads over here. And maybe there's a change that happened over here. Now, obviously, in the real world, you would have like stuff like mountains and rivers and different kind of natural barriers to like the spread of a language change. These are not the dialects. These are individual changes, like sound changes or a morphological change. But what you do is you have that, and then you can sort out where your isoglosses are and decide like what different dialects exist. Okay, an isogloss, that's just a fancy term for the line where a feature begins and ends, and then if you have a bunch of isoglosses coinciding, then you have a dialect boundary. Now, we will do a very simplified version of this wave model, okay? Because we're specifically doing, we're specifically talking about 4 dialects. Let's go 5 by however many, and so we'll have day. Let's do this. We're gonna have day, dawn, dusk, night. The reason I'm doing it this way is because there is actually communication between dawn and dusk. Because this is pulling some real world science into it. There are places in the world where the sun never rises during the winter, or the sun never sets during the summer for some period of time, and they will have a period of twilight. So these two are actually the twilight dialects. So because of in extreme northern and extreme southern, here I am establishing a spherical world when I was saying I was trying to avoid touching the prime material plane too much. But because that can happen, I'm going to say the twilight dialects do have contact. Day and night do not. And so we can have, let's just go with change 1, change 2, change 3. It will not be a straightforward situation of everybody does the same thing. We'll have, okay, maybe we'll have a lot of changes. Will start with dawn, and you can have one change that spreads to day, one change that spreads to dusk, one change that goes to all of them, right? Change 4, change 5, change 6. We could occasionally have one that starts with night and spreads to dusk. And occasionally have one that starts with day and just stays in day, stay in one specific dialect. And we can have changes that that do all of those, all of the things in between. We can have ones that go to 3 or 2 or 1. Um, oh, astrology. So thinking, basing it on astrology, it doesn't fit my vision because I want them to be closer to the Earth, and also that means we're kind of gonna have to like determine what stars exist, which I'm not going to touch. Um, and we can have something that only happens in dusk, whatever. So what it is there is no branching structure here. We can't sit here and say, okay, like dusk and night split. We have light and dark split first, and then we have um, day and dawn split from night, light, and dusk and night split from the dark. No, no, that's not what happens. What happened is they're all sort of drifting apart at the same time, but because they're still in contact, some of the changes will occur in multiple dialects. And that will give us like a connection between all of them, while at the same time, um, like building the structure into the languages of like the twilight courts having contact, but day and night have to go through them in order to communicate. And also like, you know, we can decide whether like dawn and dusk I'm going to make more innovative, and night will be relatively conservative. Um, it's like I would say like dawn, dusk, and then day, and then night in order from innovativeness to conservativeness, right? And just in general, we're going to have this kind of structure, and then we can sort out what changes happen in each of these and come up with a unique like lexergy thing. And then later on, we're going to have to switch over to the coinization, and we're going to say, we're going to have to ask, are any dialects particularly dominant? What features are more commonly shared? What structures are compatible? And just sort that out. Oh, that's an interesting idea, because another factor of this is that in the final Koine, I probably will have like words for flora and fauna and other things related, come from the place that they're associated with. So like the word for bat, I think most bats are actually crepuscular. So they probably would come from dusk rather than night. But I would have to do some research on that. Animals that are truly nocturnal will come from night. Animals that are mostly diurnal would come from the day dialect. Um, certain songbirds that have specific calls at dawn might come from the dawn dialect. And this is like, this is like vague, and it's not going to be 100% one way or another, right? But that is part of my plan. Now, we have a good foundation to start building out our nominal morphology, and then we'll move on to our second stage um, of splitting the dialects, right? Um, uh, so, but this is my plan. Uh, basically, this obviously this is like a dummy thing, and then we'll figure out different ways to decide um, how the changes spread. Sometimes I might roll dice. Sometimes I might do a poll. Sometimes I might just decide that this happened in all dialects or this happened in these dialects, whatever. But that is where I am going. Now, thinking about what the poll is going to be, I have a couple options I will be thinking about. I didn't really establish whether I was going to do purely intervocalic or intersonorant here. Um, I um, I haven't. We might want to actually have more discussion on what classes we have. Um, I'm not sure if I want to do a poll on the politeness system at this point. Both of these are things where we probably want to have some discussion and some brainstorming happen before we put it to any kind of vote. But I can think about maybe cleaning up a few things about sound changes and and next week we can get into noun morphology and sort out what what happened from the proto language point to the like from proto language to our point of divergence, right? So these things that I rolled up can sort of happen at any point during that period. Uh, and I will think about like what things were just there all already and just like okay, there was a plural marker, we don't know where it came from, and what things maybe we can trace an actual grammaticalization path, you know? But it is getting towards the end of our session here, and I kind of want to leave it here with our sound changes for the first step mostly done. Oh, okay, case markers. See, that's the kind of thing I want to brainstorm with you guys who know a lot more about different languages. How does the gender system get stuck on a noun? Well, we'll have to figure out. Are we going to have prefixes or suffixes or what? Only thing we know is that there are no, there's no noun class in pronouns. Um, so we don't need to necessarily consider that part of it, right? Um, the way that we have it now, it's actually open for us to do an open class of pronouns. So this is something that I may consider adding in. I know that we started out with we're going to give these nods to Celtic languages, but also you just whenever I'm conlanging, I want to include the full breadth of languages as inspiration, at least potentially, right? And I just feel like a politeness system fits with the vibe of the Fae, where you're constantly stressed about whether you've said what you want to say exactly right or whether it can be taken in a way that is offensive or allows them to do something you don't want them to do or all of that kind of thing, right? Sentence final particles. Well, I can consider, right? I think maybe this is kind of a thing. I think Thai has some sentence final particles too, right? This is the kind of thing that we will decide on after we have more of the other morphology done, because the thing with politeness is a politeness system isn't just arise as a politeness system, right? There are things about the language that contribute to politeness being expressed the way it is. Japanese, so like some languages allowed open class pronouns, and they ended up developing lots of different pronouns that have different things, right? The Fae have no simple words, only lawyers speak. Yes. Um, the and this is this. I'm gonna have to be thinking about these kinds of things when I do my uh, uh, all of my vocabulary, basically, um, and all of my spell incantations, because I think I'm going to go with a more metaphorical style, whereas like incantations in Ndakaga are mostly very direct, and it's like say what will happen. This will be like I call upon the power of the bear or something like that, right? Which means I need a lot more words to start with too. But yeah. Yeah. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm really pleased with lots of people showing up for this new time, and this is what it's going to be going forward: is 8 a.m. Central Time to 10 a.m. Central Time. So I will see you next week, where we will actually start working out what the noun morphology looks like, and start getting into like for this like first stage of the language, right? And start getting into like our case marking and all of this. Probably it's very weird that we have oblique cases and not core cases, so we might end up developing some core cases from our obliques. Yeah. 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 We'll do some brainstorming on stuff next time though. But thank you all for watching, and happy conlanging.